What are you seeing in the charts that my viewers need to know?
Yeah, I think you're right. The holiday season for all of us is behind us, and now people get back to work and get more serious. I think if you look on it at a very, very short-term basis, Jackie, the September 1st intraday low on the S&P, and that's at 2157.09. That, if you're very short-term, you keep your eye on that. Honestly, I think it'll hold, and I think if I make it very, very technical for a second, if you look at the S&P 500 and you put a Bollinger Band on it, a very interesting thing is happening. It's getting very, very tight. That's like winding a spring. And I think the move should be pretty dramatic, up or down. And I opt for the up because of the current leadership. You have financials, you have technology. The XLK is making a new high today. I'm fairly bullish longer term.
Okay, and when you heard what the gentleman had to say, they talked about the Fed and the potential for this rate hike to be put off, that some of this bad news we're getting could necessarily be good news. That's supportive of your view.
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case or not, but either way, the market is absorbing it very, very nicely.
And where do we go from here in terms of the ranges? You know, we're so used to all-time highs being hit on the S&P 500 and also the Dow, watching the two indices very closely. I mean, what are your ranges right now, and give us sort of a time frame on where you expect us to go?
Well, the upper end of the range is the recent highs in both the averages. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we're very close to making new all-time highs in both of them. But you know what's really impressive? And I've been looking at charts for 50 years, and I've never seen this
Ralph,
year.
Don't tell people that.
This year, when the S&P 500 and the Dow went to all-time new highs, it was led by market breadth. Now, in English, that means the majority of stocks were stronger than the large blue-chip averages. I don't think I've ever seen that in 50 years. That's awesome stuff. But you know what's the real story today is emerging markets. Emerging markets are now breaking out all over the place, and they haven't been this high since July of last year. And I'm seeing it represented in the BRIC, China, India, Brazil, and Russia.
Well, let me ask you this. Is that a positive sign when you speak to all the markets globally, or in some ways could it be interpreted as a negative sign? Because right now we've seen a lot of inflow into this country, into our market, because it's the best house in a bad neighborhood. But if the rest of the neighborhood starts to perk up, do we lose some of that capital?
Maybe, but I wouldn't take that as a long-term negative. No, I take that as a global view. It's impressive, and it says people feeling more comfortable about investing. That's a big positive.
Just explain to the viewers, Ralph, you explained why market breadth is so remarkable right now in terms of how this market is moving. Just flesh that out a little bit for them so they understand that in context.
Well, if I can use an analogy we like to look at when talking about breadth. Imagine an army going into battle. It's usually led by leadership, generals. And the generals are the blue chips in the Dow and the S&P 500. And the army of soldiers are all the other stocks. That's the breadth of the market. Now, normally, you get the leadership going first and the army follows. That's the way long-term bull markets are. But this time around, it's been the foot soldiers that have been leading the blue chip generals into battle. That's very, very unusual.
So that shows you a sign of a little bit more strength.
Strength, and it's very broad-based. It's across the board. You know, it's not only technology and financial, but it's small and mid-cap stocks like the Russell and the S&P mid-cap. They're within fractions of making new all-time highs.